we've made it through the hectic holidays. Now's the time many reflect on the past and they set the new goals, new career, get healthier, save money. Other goals are more life-changing, addressing an unhappy relationship. Now, unfortunately, January is one of the most popular times of year to file for divorce. This is when you need legal strength and trusted advice. With us from Divorce Matters, Kathleen Laraway, showholder, and senior attorney David Kalasek. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Getting right to this, Kathleen, is that the new tax law is changing things for divorce. Is this a concern? Will it affect people?
Well, so the new tax law that passed in 2018, what it did is it changed the taxability of alimony or maintenance. It's called maintenance here in Colorado, but sometimes people know it as spousal support or alimony. And with that, it also changed the calculation for alimony and maintenance here in Colorado. So it's not a concern, but it's something to know going forward that you're going to have a different amount, and that can also, we can help you calculate that at our firm.
You guys are wonderful. I've been chatting with them, and you're so comforting, and you know what you're doing, so that's wonderful advice to hear. Now, David, the common law marriage, and how does someone know if it's a common law, if they're married that way, or a marriage?
Sure, it's something we hear a lot now because people are electing not to get formally married often. And the biggest thing that we find is intent. Did you intend to actually be married? Not committed boyfriend and girlfriend, not a serious relationship. Did you think you were actually married? And oftentimes then the court looks at, did you have a ceremony? Some people go off into the mountains or in their backyard, have a ceremony. Would family members and friends say, yes, I think they were married. I thought they were actually married. They were introducing themselves as husband and wife. Then often the court will also look at financial things, such as, did you file taxes jointly, married? Did you claim health insurance? Is often one that we see where you're claiming as a spouse. Did you commingle your assets? A lot of those things all come together to determine whether or not you were actually in a common law marriage.
So now for both of you, and you can chime in on this, another big concern going through divorce, we've discussed this, the children through all this. So what goes into decisions about that? How do you help guide during a divorce? It's a sensitive time.
Absolutely it is. You know, the one thing that is hard is that the courts will allocate parental responsibilities, and what that means is parenting time, both regular parenting time and holiday parenting time. They'll also determine decision-making responsibilities between the parents for major decisions as well as day-to-day decisions, and they'll also determine child support calculations and which spouse, if a spouse, should be paying the other child support. So those are things that a divorce will handle and deal with. Great attorneys, and we work well with our clients to try and make sure that all the issues unforeseen and in the future are going to be dealt with, talking and thinking about future extracurricular activity costs. How are we going to split those up?
Little things, right? Wouldn't you agree on
Yes.
that you hear, and the little things that you have to do when it comes to kids? I mean, that's where you really have to be compassionate about that. And so I guess the other question is, what if you aren't married and have kids?
So if you're not married but you do have children, you file in Colorado what's called a petition for allocation of parental responsibilities. And it decides all those things I just talked about. But it's for couples that are not married and do not have marital property and have never considered themselves to be a married couple. But until you file that, and I'll turn this over to David, there's really not much rules in place until something gets filed with the court system.
Yes, unfortunately, until there's a court order that says the kids are going to be staying with a certain person, how child support is dealt with, things like that, there simply is no restrictions. And so, unfortunately, that's one of the things that can compel someone to really want to file, is that once that's done, there are restrictions in place. The children cannot move out of state. Things like that, that people often seek filing something so that they feel there's some security measures in place to actually deal with the kids and protect their rights when it comes to having time with the kids.
Now, Kathleen, I think my divorce is going to be okay, amicable. I mean, what do you say to that? Can I go that route, or we really need to seek the legal advice?
Well, you know, I think that everybody should seek an attorney, whether amicable or not. Certainly just to talk about the law and learn what their rights are in a divorce. But a lot of divorces do settle, and that's a goal for a lot of us at Divorce Matters. We're certainly not out to take your case to court and fight for every single thing, even if it's not important to you. And also in the state of Colorado, people are required to mediate their cases with mediators, which means sitting down with a third-party neutral, maybe with your attorneys or without attorneys if you don't have one, to try and resolve your case. And if you're able to resolve your case in mediation, you can sign and draft a separation agreement and parenting plan. And you may, if you're both represented by attorneys, you may not have to go back to the court system after that.
Well, that's good news on that point. David, high asset divorces. What's involved?
Yeah, there's a lot involved, unfortunately, and that's why a lot of people come to Divorce Matters. When you get high assets, you start dealing with things like spousal maintenance, alimony, and then also attorney's fees often become something that's dealt with a lot, because oftentimes in high assets, there's a disparity between the incomes of the two people involved. And that can result in financial support really needing to occur between the parties. Also, when you get into high assets, you start dealing with retirement accounts. There's a lot of funds and different things. And how retirement accounts are dealt with it can be a very confusing area. And that's why having a good attorney involved is very important, because different retirement accounts are dealt with differently. And lastly, it's simply, how are things divided? And in Colorado, finances are divided equitably, the court says. So people often ask us, what does equitable mean? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean equal. And most people think it's going to be divided 50-50, and that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes, due to one spouse having more than others, or what they came into the marriage with, things may not be divided equally. And as a result, you need a good attorney to make sure things are fair.
And we have a little under a minute. I could talk. You're actually, this is very educational, you know, and so
and we could talk for hours.
I know, but we have about 40 seconds, so I want to get to your apps. Kathleen, Divorce Matters app. How does this help?
So we started this app a few years ago. It's available both on Google Play and on the iTunes Store. And essentially what it is it's a manner for people from their phone to be able to take a look and see what might be calculated for child support, and also what they might be entitled to for maintenance. Things you need to know are your gross income, your gross monthly income, your spouse's gross monthly income, and an approximation on, overnights for parenting time. But essentially we say, like, this is a free app. It's no cost. We really want people to, be able to look at this whenever they want. And we just want to make sure everybody knows we're launching our update next week for the new alimony calculation, which, as I mentioned, the tax law from last year changed.
Right. And that's, quickly before we wrap up here, that's the alimony app involved with the children in the process that you also have. The calculator, is that correct?
It can also calculate child support.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, and that's right there that we're looking at. All right, thank you so much. Time flies, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Call during the month of January. Mention you saw Divorce Matters on Mile High Living, and your comprehensive consultation, it's going to be waived. The number, 720-542-6142. 720-542-6142. And for more information, visit divorce-matters.com. Legal strength, trusted advice is what you'll find at Divorce Matters. Each person's situation, of course, is unique. This is why hiring an attorney with extensive experience, it's important. Divorce Matter, paid for today's segment. We'll see you back in a few minutes.
We understand that divorce can be intimidating, and the decisions you make today will impact your life forever. Divorce is complicated. There's a lot at stake when considering your future. Let the attorneys at Divorce Matters help prepare you for the things that matter most.